WIPU Nation, welcome to another Agent Spotlight. And today, Yola and myself, we're going to be highlighting Laura Sisco. Laura, you've been in the business since 2015, is that correct?
Yep, November 2015, coming up on a decade almost. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're a dinosaur in this industry for sure. But I'm going to start us off just to kind of get us where I want to go. I've kind of found that most of the time when we're watching these videos, it's good if the questions that are asked are also questions that we as the audience can listen to and ask ourselves as well. But I want to do a little thing here and see if I can guess the type of person you were when you were in high school. So maybe like 15 to right after college age, 23, 25. And I find that women can agree that we like both of these things. So I'm going to give you the option to answer. You want to answer a question about music, or do you want to answer a question about shoes?
Let's do shoes.
Okay. And I might ask you to answer the other one anyway. I don't know.
Okay.
When you were walking the halls in high school, what kind of shoes were you wearing?
What kind of shoes was I wearing in high school? So I was probably wearing Vans. And I don't know if y'all remember like Osiris's back in the day. They were a skateboard shoe. I wore those. But mainly Vans and probably some flip-flops. I lived in California, so you know.
Yeah, I lived in California. What part?
I was in Huntington Beach, Orange County for about 7 years. And then I was in Chatsworth, which is in the San Fernando Valley, for about 4.
Yep, I grew up in Lake Forest. So that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, she must be a little younger than we are because I don't remember Osiris's.
I don't either.
It's been like 30 years since I've been out of high school.
It stumped you, Linda. It stumped you.
Yeah, I didn't know you. I never knew that you lived in California at all.
You didn't?
No.
Wow.
It's kind of ironic to know that now. It fills in some gaps of you that I try to read. You guys know I try to read people, but so the whole gist of that, Yola, do you want to tell what kind of shoes you were wearing in high school?
I mean, I was definitely a nerd, but I remember I liked Nikes because they fit with everything. So yeah.
Probably Nikes. I might have been in some Vans, but I also had the Sperry topsiders.
Total North Carolina girl. That screams.
I was in Kentucky, so I don't know. But the whole point of that is a lot of times, like, we can tell a lot about somebody's character based on crazy things like that. What kind of shoes they wore, because somebody that's wearing Vans probably doesn't have the same personality as somebody that's wearing jellies, the little jelly shoes and things like that. But what were you like? How close am I? How wrong am I? What were you like in that time period?
So it's so funny that you said you never knew that I grew up in California. I've known you for 10 years. And, things can be deceiving. So 15 to 23, 25, a lot happened. That was probably a very scary decade. I was probably 3 different people during that time period. So at 15, I remember I was in California. I was a little bit rebellious, and that was kind of who I was, kind of getting into trouble that my parents didn't know about. But then also at the same time, I got saved when I was 15 out in California at a church called Shepherd of the Hills. And I was doing modeling and acting, and that's kind of what I was doing in California. And I feel like it kind of helped me grow up a little bit as far as work ethic is concerned, but it was also really hard on my psyche. So at 16, 17, I decided I was leaving California, leaving my parents there, because again, I was rebellious. And I said, I'm going to move in with my parents across the country, or with my grandparents across the country. Left my parents in California, moved to North Carolina, started working at Texas Roadhouse as, a junior in high school, met a boy like we all do, and ended up getting pregnant.
Not all of us.
Some of us on today. I met a boy, and got into a relationship, got pregnant, ended up graduating a year early from high school. And so from 17 to 22, I got married and started my family, and then got divorced while going to college. Actually went to UNCW here in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I still miss the whole acting and that industry. So I went to film school. Thought I was going to be a casting director. And the film incentive in North Carolina left, went to Atlanta. I was now a single mom at 22, and I couldn't relocate. So I had to kind of figure out what I was going to be doing. And long story short, went through a couple of different jobs, marketing director, Chick-fil-A, selling cable door to door. And so a lot happened. I'm telling you, I was literally like 3 or 4 different people during that decade. It was probably the hardest decade trying to find out who I was during that time period, but I wouldn't change it for the world. So
Why North Carolina? Was it just like a random state that you picked, or like
no, my family was originally from North Carolina, from Fayetteville, a little army town.
Okay.
And when I was 7, we moved to California. So from 7 to almost 16, 17 years old is when I came back, and my grandparents were here. So it really was my hometown. So
Very cool. Wow.
I just always thought, the Ville was where you were born and raised.
nope.
That's
The Ville was pre 7 years old, and then my last year of high school, and then that's it. Pretty much.
right.
Yeah.
So
15-year-old Laura, what would you tell her?
18-year-old Laura?
15.
15-year-old. And my oldest daughter's 15 right now. She's about to be 16 in June, and she's complete opposite of me. Like, I don't deserve her. She's so good. 15-year-old Laura, I would tell her to slow down. Just slow down. You don't know it all. And then I would also tell her to be excited, because life is so exciting. You don't know even the bad things, or the things that, the decisions and the mistakes that you make, they do shape you. But I would say slow down, but also be excited, because it's going to be a wild ride.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
that's and that's ironic that you're right back. So it's a full circle with it's Georgia. Georgia's the oldest one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful as well. I mean, all your children are beautiful. You brought up a good point there, and that was a good question, Yola. I think that especially when we're young, our idea of success is one that we steal from what others tell us it should be.
Mhm.
So as we get older, what success looks like, becomes much different. And I think that's when people make the biggest jumps in life, is when they realize, hey, that's success to that person, but it's not to me. That's not what it looks like. What's the biggest risk you've taken so far, and what would life look like if you hadn't taken the risk?
Ooh, very good question.
That is a question. I could go a couple different directions.
We can hear them both out.
I'm just trying to think, because I wasn't prepared. You sent me questions, but
I gave you broad. I gave you broad.
So the biggest risk, you said?
Yeah. Like I'll break it down a little bit easier. Maybe it'll help. But I think in life there are 7 different forks in the road that we come to.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of those sets us on a path that's going to lead us to another fork. But like, where did the successful Laura that we see now, like, what was it? What was the first risk that you got to that fork in the road, and you picked maybe the one less traveled?
I don't feel like it was a risk. I think it was, I think that what brought out successful Laura was 18-year-old mom Laura. I think I really do. And I'm trying not to even choke up thinking back to that time.
You almost choked me up.
I know, I'm already like teary-eyed.
Don't do it to me, okay? Don't do it to me right now. But I think that, because you get to that crossroad, and I have great parents, great family, but I also, looking at that time when you're 17, almost 18, and you're like, what do? I'm I'm about to have a baby and I'm still kind of crazy. So I think having Georgia built me. I really do. I think that she has seen me from the good, the bad, the ugly. She has, I don't think that I would be successful without that time period in my life. And so many people think that it's like the end all be all if that happens, but it really shaped me. It's given me compassion. It's given for myself, for other women, in situations like that. But I think it is the road less traveled. It's hard to be a 17-year-old mom. It's hard to be a 22-year-old single mom, and then starting a insurance business, you know? So I think that, I hope that answers your question. I'm trying to think of another risk.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And Yola, jump in as well in this, but we've got a group of, 7,500 women. Next year, it's going to, we're going to double. But I would venture to say that probably 40% look just like you. Like when they're listening to this, that you're telling their story.
Yeah.
But not all of them are going to make it, unfortunately. Of the 40%, maybe 10% make it. What was in Laura that maybe you can give them, the other 30% that potentially won't make it? You can give them some advice on it.
You just stole my question.
Dang, sorry. Come up with a better one.
I know, right?
The 30% that I would give to those, let's see here. I would say, repeat it one more time.
What we should give them as a
time.
Yeah, like there's 40% probably in our group that they're living your life right now that you just described. Yeah. And they're at that fork in the road. They're at that, like, hey, I got to do something. What was inside of you that pushed you to do what you needed to do?
I think you have to realize that you're capable of more than you know that you are. That for me, I knew that I was operating under my potential. There was this like gnawing in the back of my head that like, like, why are you in this rut? This, like, why are you, how have you dug yourself into a rut of, struggle, whether it's financial, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional, like, how did you do this? And I think just having that inner dialogue with yourself of knowing, I'm operating under my potential. That's number one. Belief is always everything first. Everything else comes to fruition based off of how you think. And so that was big. And then what really gnawed at me was just because I made decisions that put me behind, it wasn't going to be that way for Georgia. That was kind of, again, we go back to those forks in the road of saying, hey, she's not going to be a statistic of a broke single mom. She's not going to be a statistic of struggle. We're going to change that. And so I was always just trying to have my head on a swivel of looking for ways and opportunities to get ahead. And so I would tell those folks is that don't succumb to your circumstances. Don't succumb to your belief, like the beliefs that you have or the thoughts that you think, because those can all be changed and you can create new synapses and all the things that put your life into a different direction. You just have to be stubborn enough.
Yeah.
Stubbornness, it was the thing that caused me to make a lot of bad decisions early on, was that, comatose, which means stubborn in Italian. I married an Italian, that's how I know that. But you can turn it into, the thing that makes you unique and the thing that makes you very successful if you're stubborn in the right ways for the right reasons for the right things.
Yes.
And digging in those heels and saying, come hell or high water, we're going to change this around. So
yeah. And I think people forget that too, because Yola and I, we talk all the time, but you get what you put out there.
You do.
And if you're speaking, like, I can tell you if I'm going to have a good day in the field before I even hit the field.
Yep.
And knowing that your brain is that powerful, and yet most of the time we struggle to use it in its right form is frustrating. Yoli, did you have something you wanted to crank in there?
Yeah, I mean, I read Laura's story and I am like in awe of her. So I'm like, thank you for coming and doing this with us. But here you are 10 years later in this industry, and you have spoken on stages, you have empowered women and men throughout your career in your industry, like your voice. What was it about insurance? What drew you to this industry that made you so successful? Well, I wouldn't say it made you successful, but like you have really made your mark on the industry as well. So
So yeah, I think that's a great question because everyone is like, I didn't wake up wanting to be the final expense insurance girl. That was never on my radar. But I think having the flexibility in the vehicle is important. What I mean by that is we all have skills and talents and things like that. And when I was at Chick-fil-A, and again, I was miserable, not because I was working at Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A and the food and everything that they stand for, but I did not like my job there. And so when, Ashley walked in, and I was looking for that opportunity of something different, she just happened to be the person that I found, and she happened to be in insurance, and it kind of fell in my lap. And I asked her, I said, "What do you do? Because you look happy. You look like you've got something that I don't have." And she, said, "I sell insurance. I help seniors." And so honestly, when I shadowed and I saw what she did, it was the freedom and the autonomy to kind of make your own schedule, which again, what am I? I'm a little bit stubborn. I'm a little bit wiry hair. So I like that. And so I said, okay, if this chick can do it, then I can do it. And that was the first thing. And then I made $5,000 my first month. And that was really cool. And then I made six figures that first year. That was really cool. And then I started making more money than my ex-husband. That was really cool. And then it was, okay, well, I realized that this whole setup is something that I can duplicate. That was really exciting. I loved being able to go in and teach. And I found out that I love sales and just all of the way that you can be creative within a sales platform. And that just was around the people that I wanted to be around. And so it really wasn't the product or the industry. It was kind of those things. But then I've been planted here, I feel like, and I truly love educating people, whether it's seniors and their families. And I love developing people, which goes back to like that whole acting realm of, being in the moment and understanding the scene and, diving in and digging into that. I do the same thing, but it just so happens to be in insurance. And I love developing agents and leaders and seeing what they can accomplish. And that's really my passion. It just so happens to be in final expense.
great. Yeah, that's a great response.
Yeah, and let me just say for the record, I'm about to be a little vulnerable here at the end, but you say for the record, for about the first 3 years of Laura and I going head to head, maybe 4 years, I whipped her ass. I did. But then this is what happened. This is the vulnerable part on my side, and people need to hear it. Um, Laura and I both went through something where we lost a big portion of our team. And I think that people neglect to realize, young builders neglect to realize that you're going to lose people. And even if they've been with you for 5 or 6 years, if we look at what the average person holds a job for, we know that through no fault of you or their own, they're going to go too. So there's a life cycle to this. So Laura and I both lost a good portion. And I kind of thought about it like this, like everybody wants to be on stage, but you can't stay on the stage. Like sometimes you've got to go behind the curtain and you've got to change some things and come back out. Laura and I both exited the stage. I think you would agree with that, Laura. We both exited the stage. And what I did behind the curtain was totally different than what Laura did, because we've had two different outcomes of what success looks like for us. But Laura, when you went through the ups and the downs and the roller coaster ride that this is, and you went behind the stage, you went into the shadows for a little bit, what were you doing? What were you telling yourself? What were you learning about? Where were you doing something different than what I did?
Yeah, so I think that it all boils down to, I love how you said that it's not always our time to be in the spotlight. Okay. And sometimes when you're not in the spotlight, it like hits your ego and you're like, oh, well, let me just pack my tail and go over here. Not all eyes are on me anymore. It can't be like that. That's not real life. That's not real business, just like when we have on social media, the highlight reels. So the way that I look at it is I was always like a duck on water where smiling, showing up, and then my feet on the bottom were just like trying to figure all the things out, making mistakes, all the things. And again, going back to comatose, stubborn. And, it's you go behind the scenes and you say, hey, you know what? I had some success here, but what got you here isn't going to get you there. And so, hiring better, and then also me being better at articulating the opportunity or at articulating the sales process of inspecting what you inspect when it comes to the agents that you're training. I think all of that goes into it. And then the other thing is just time under tension. So when we go to the gym, you don't get your muscles, and I'm missing half my muscles I used to have right now, but you don't get your muscles overnight. And so it's that time under tension. And I just always tell myself that when I'm going through a time where maybe I'm not, going like this and growth is like 150%, I'm still under that tension. Long as I'm putting in the reps, that's what's important. And you're going to have those peaks or those spikes of like big growth that everyone's always looking for or putting you in the spotlight. But what keeps you there consistently, that's the compounding effect, is time under tension, the long haul in this business. This business pays you dividends the longer you're in it. So even if you're not doing all the right things at the right times, just by being in it, you're learning, you're developing, and in the right time and in the right season, you have those big growth moments. So I would say right now, this is not a time where I'm on the spotlight. This is a time when I am, again, going back to, okay, what is my system? What is my process? Who am I looking for? What type of leaders am I developing? How am I developing myself as a leader? How am I giving to myself as a human being, not just as a leader or as a mom, all of those things. And so you just have to be patient with yourself, I think, is big. And going back to the question where you asked me, what would you say to 15-year-old Laura? Slow down, take your time. Same thing here.
Yep, sometimes you have to slow down in order to speed up. As we get older, we start recognizing that it's not about just being busy, it's about being productive, and it's about doing things that matter, that make an impact, that'll change somebody's life versus just get you through the next, sale or whatever. So when you leave people better than you found them is when you actually truly have start building a foundation for yourself and for others, right? Because when you're fed, you're going to feed other people.
Yeah. And then having grace for yourself and for others. So like last year, I needed to give myself some grace. And, there were things that I went through last year on a personal level, on a professional level, that I had to deal with. And I think when you can give yourself grace and say, hey, you know what? I went through something, but it's not going to stop me. It's not going to hinder me from moving forward. And so now this year I come in and I'm personally, physically, and professionally ready to kind of go into that next phase of business development. Like, I think that's big too. And so forgetting what was behind and pressing to what's forward, I think is a big thing to think about too.
Yeah, you can't, it's okay to be in your feels. I tell people, just don't unpack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can be there for a second. Just don't unpack that luggage all the way. Laura, I want to hit you with a follow-on, and I can ask this question because we've been friends for a long time, and I know the system and the hierarchy and things like that. But one thing that I've noticed is you get to a certain level, and then you're going to plateau, and it's just going to happen. Now, the length of the plateau is really up to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that people get here and what their coach or upline has been giving them starts to go away. And there's a little resentment that comes in. But there has to be a time, if you're going to be the conductor of the train, that you have to take control. And you can't say, well, I'm not getting the help that I used to get, or I'm not. when do you know if you're ready to take that control?
I think that you should always be taking that control. I think that you should never rely on help from someone else. Now the system, the setup, the structure that you plug into, yes, that's there for you. But at the end of the day, it's you plugging into those things, and whatever extra that you're getting outside of that, outside of your, your working relationship with your direct, should be gravy, in my opinion. I think
I know who gave you that advice.
huh?
I think I know who gave you that
Gave
advice.
that advice. Was that you?
No,
You,
but I got the same advice
uh-huh.
from a certain gentleman, a little skinny dude.
But no, I think that's been like, the whole time is like, and you got to be careful of who you give too much control to as well. So you can have your space. You need your space. If you're going to hit your full potential, you have to have that space to grow, to ask for the help, or to make the mistake and then ask for the help. You need all of that.
Yeah.
Don't give yourself the space if you don't step out, or if you don't allow someone else to say, hey, I need this space, you're not going to hit your full potential. You won't grow, and you won't be the leader that you need to be for your business.
Yeah, take anything that somebody's going to give you and be grateful for it, but don't expect it.
Exactly.
It's when that expectation gets out of whack that things go on. Yola, I've got one more question, unless you want to hit something on that.
I mean, I was going to say something, but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just
I'm a
going
hog.
to say, when we don't have a backup is when we really start working, right? Like when we don't make it, when we realize that nobody's going to come to save us is when we start really looking into success and like, all right, I've got to do this for me if I'm ever going to get anybody to take me serious. So
Yep.
that was just my comment on it, but go ahead with your last question.
No, you just gave me another thought, and you're a
I
thief. You're a thief because you stole it. I've been watching, Yola knows my whole life now, but I've been watching survival videos, like the I shouldn't be alive things.
Mhm.
And most of the time people survive. But
Mhm.
what I've noticed is it's really never the rescuers that rescue the person. It's always the person. Like,
Mhm.
there was one guy that fell down a volcano, and he's like, oh, they'll come back and, they'll get me. And he waited forever. And then he was finally like, screw it. I have to do something. And he climbed out of the volcano.
Mhm.
So don't think that, this is a lay down industry, or that any industry is going to just be a lay down. You have to rescue yourself. The knight in shining armor is not true.
You are your own knight in shining armor. You are here and you got to make sure you're doing it.
I always say that, the number one factor that I look for in someone when I'm hiring someone that I want to work with is resourcefulness. Is your ability to be resourceful. Can you make something out of nothing? Do you have I don't know if that's the right word, is the street smarts, or however way you want to package it, is how you're talking about, Linda, that survival mode is, can you come up with a solution? Can you be resourceful when you're out in the field? And we're, on our side, we're, in the field, knocking doors, looking for open doors. Can you find an open door, or can you create one? Where can you create the opportunities? I live by, my job is to create opportunities. And so to me, that's the number one skill set to someone to be successful long-term in this industry, or any industry that they're in, is their ability to be resourceful.
Yeah.
Nothing works if you do, right? If you don't work, nothing's going to work.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this, Yola, but Laura got into the business and hired her now husband.
No way, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'll let you hit on that a little bit, but my question is there's a lot of people out here, there's a lot of couples out here that could be a powerhouse, which is what Laura calls her group, the Powerhouse Group. But it's very hard, obviously, because you live with somebody, you're married to them, you're working with them. When you and John disagree with the business, where do you disagree? Like, what area do you disagree? Is it like money? Is it how you're running things? What area do you guys struggle with?
Okay, so I have a nickname for John. It's called Junkyard John. He's gonna hate me for saying this. And then his friend is Frugal Freddy. So anyway, by that is like me and John, we work so well together. I love working with John. I truly do. Now we get at each other's, but I wouldn't change it for the world. The things that we do disagree on, because we have our insurance business now. He was doing that for 8 years. Now he's doing more of our like real estate investments and things of that nature. But we still work in tandem. But it's always finances, because the way that our brains work, I'm visionary and he is more analytical. And so I have big vision. I'm going to spend it. It's going to come back. Don't worry about it. And then he's like, okay, well, how do we make this work? So it's great because you need both. And so sometimes I have to give, other times he has to give, or we just figure it out somehow. But yeah, I would say that was probably the biggest thing, because when he first got into insurance, one of the biggest issues that he had, well, first was, attitude, and we got past that. And then the second was investing in leads. Like he didn't like the leads. And what's crazy though is once he finally got it, and then he saw the return on investment, because again, that's the thing. And then he'll be frugal, but then he'll invest in something, and he is an investor. So he'll see the returns. And once he sees the returns, he's good as gold. But that was big. And then he ended up his first year in the business, wrote more business the second half of the year than almost anyone in the company. And then it was the number one agent for 4 or 5 years on our region. So, we do work.
We're laughing because, and this is the God's honest truth, I never in a million years thought that I would have to say that I'm John in this situation. But I'm John. Yola is you.
I'm Laura.
Yeah.
I'm like, Linda, this is gonna be big. Wait until I'm asking you for $100,000. And she's like, I don't know. This is $600 in my bank account. I'm never gonna have. I'm like, you look at your investment of what you're getting versus what you're there's just some things you can't put the price of money on, right? Like we make the money, but yeah, Laura.
Everybody's broke at a different level. So Yola and I talk about it all the time. Laura, you can probably appreciate this when you guys started the real estate side. It has been a long time since I've had to run a shoestring budget. So when it comes to WIPU and our group, Yola and myself have funded everything. Now we have some sponsors and things like that, but I'm the one that's like, Yola, no, we can't do that, because Laura, at one point we had $23 in the checking account. And she's like, we need Legal Shield to ask a question. And it was $27. And I'm like, we can't do it. Just absolutely can't do it. So it's been fun. And it's reminded me of what hard work will do if you put it in. But running this budget for our group it scared me sometimes.
Yeah, but now we are a year later, right? And we're seeing the return on investments, because we're about to, our community is growing at a pace where we're just not able to keep up. And now we need more help, which is the most incredible thing you can actually ask God for, right? Like these are problems we asked for. We can't go back and say, oh, wait, it's too much for me. I can't take it. Like the fact that we've grown to 7,500 women in such a short period of time, and we have beautiful women like you that are willing to give us an hour of their time and just kind of pick your brain about your story and your journey. I don't know. I'm about to start crying myself. Like this is what, honestly, when you get a vision, and God just kind of puts it in your heart, just trust him. Trust where your process is. Trust where you're going, and then you'll see the returns. I've seen it in spades already. Like I've seen it in spades. So
let me add something to that. And so I was doing a Bible study today. If you guys want a good Bible study, I'm just gonna put it out there. It's called Experiencing God. It's amazing. I've done it 3 times. And something always happens when I'm doing this Bible study. But something that I read yesterday was disobedience leads to famine. So I don't know, like all of the the verbiage on there right now, but it's like goes back to that vision. And when you know, and you're like, hey, I'm called to do this, you got to do it, and you got to be obedient then, not 5 minutes from now, not 10 minutes from now, because there's a consequence to that if you don't. How do I know that? Because I've been there. And again, going back to my stubbornness, right? That God has worked in me to actually accomplish more of his purposes. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. It's we're vision girls, okay? We get that. Yeah, so
Yeah. I want to go to Dubai next. I want to take our platform to Dubai. And she's like, whoa there, killer. I'm like, well, wait until I'm picking your ass up in Abu Dhabi. Like,
but we've seen an influx of a little bit of backbiting in the industry. I don't know how much you pay attention, Laura. I watch it. I like to stay up to date on all of the soap operas, but like with Yola and myself, with WIPU, there's 100 other Facebook groups that you can be involved in. Mm-hmm. And just like there's 100 different IMOs. And for the most part, they've all got a proven system because they've got people who have worked it to their advantage. What's different about somebody working with Laura Sisco?
What I would say, working with me, you're going to get a raw, real Laura. You're going to get the unfiltered version. But you're also going to get the polished version. I want to give you the best of me, but also you're going to hear the things that didn't work for me, and you're going to get someone that's going to come alongside of you. I think that, what separates us is the ability to come alongside of you, to give you the training, but then to also give you the support, not just the support of being in the field, but the emotional support. This is an emotional business. Sales is emotional. And if you can't help the people on that level, then it doesn't mean that I'm a punching bag. That does not mean that you can just dump on me, right? There's boundaries, but you're going to get that. And I think that goes a long way in someone's success, is feeling that I have the support of someone. Support isn't just a resource on a Zoom. Support is a phone call at 10 o'clock at night sometimes when fit is hitting the shan, as Craig Harvey would say, right? That's support. When you can feel heard, that's support. That doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything, but I think that is what's kept me in this business. And I have pretty good tenure with the agents and the leaders that I have on my team. And I think that's the separator, is what you're going to get is true support. True support.
Yeah. I'll throw something out there, because I've ridden with a lot of your agents, and obviously I'm friends with them. You do something that I always tried to do as well. I still try to do, is what you give your agents really shouldn't change. So they should really know, prior to them even coming to you with the concern, how you're going to handle it. Yeah. Like, you can't have rambunctious Laura and then pity Laura, and you need to be solid. And you've done a very good job of being even keel, even coming from Fayetteville. It's hard to do for you guys.
I only have a portion of 2.6. Remember, that's why I say I got just enough to keep me spicy.
Yeah, I always say I'm here to serve, but I'm not your servant. Like, I'll serve as much as you'll allow me, but I'm also not going to let you abuse me either. So, yeah.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but I would say too, it's strategy. Like, if you talk to Jordan, one thing that I did, I was a good student when it came to our process, a good student when it came to our presentation, to our strategy. And because I was a good student, like, I want to put everything out there that is so simple for you to plug into. My granddad used to say, nothing's hard once you understand it. I think he was trying to teach me like pre-calc or something. And I was like, that's not my brain. And he said, nothing's hard once you understand it. And I live by that. And so the way that I set things up, or I coach and train, it's once we understand it, it's easy, So strategy is also important with that.
They say that comfort is a slow death. Like, when you get comfortable, it's just a slow death past then. Where are you uncomfortable right now? Like, where are you pushing yourself?
Yeah. So, I think that's true. Comfort leads to a slow death. And also, anytime that you allow yourself to get comfortable, and it happens to all of us. So if you think that you don't ever allow yourself to get comfortable, you're lying to yourself. You just have to know that it's going to be an uphill battle. So last year, I'll give it a good example is that, you know, I'll be honest, I had a bad miscarriage last year. It messed with me, my brain, like emotions. I didn't really try to grow as far as hiring agents either. I kind of just took the year. And what I'll say is that I got comfortable there. And because of that, it's uphill battle this year. But I'm ready for the challenge. But that's just like, I think that that's just big to know. Give me your question one more time. I want to make sure I'm answering it fully. I'm not missing anything.
No, you did. It's just basically, where are you trying to be uncomfortable now?
So definitely, when it comes to the hiring process with people, of having even more conversations, getting into the field even more, just broadening my shoulders for, because again, it goes back to what got you here for, a $6 million agency is not going to get you to a $10 million agency, or make you the type of person that can buy back the time to where if I decide to homeschool my kids next year, that I can do that. And so it's going back to, and I'm an intentional or a strategic type of thinker. So I want there to be strategies and I want there to be systems in place that are automated, that are going to alleviate some of the stress that we put on ourselves. So like trying to figure things out all the time, like how am I going to grow here? Well, we should already know how we're going to grow here because we have this system set up. And so that is what I'm doing and what I'm growing right now. And it's a lot of trial and error. And when there's a lot of trial, there's a lot of growth with it. But then the small errors, if you're a perfectionist like me, it's going to be like, oh, a knife in the side, And so having to work through that as well. And just realizing that you're always a work in progress. You're always showing up and refining a better version of yourself. And you need to stay humble in that. And when you do, good things happen. So that's kind of where I'm growing, is automation systems, plugging in, making myself a more even keel. I love that you said that and gave me that compliment, because I work towards that. And I want to be like that, not just at a $6 million, but 10, 20, 30 million. And be there for my kids and my family and my husband, going and still flipping houses and having fun, because that's creative to me. So without it interfering with anything else. So that's where I'm growing.
Can I just share something with you on a personal level? I actually lost a child as well. And going back, first of all, my heart goes out to you, because that's a loss that I don't think any woman understands until she goes through it. But what I've learned through my journey is everything happens for a reason. And God just has, He's not saying not now, He's just saying not yet. And you'll get there. I mean, you're a beautiful light. And go ahead, Linda.
Are you guys trying to make me cry?
No, I'm still not crying. I don't want to go to crying, so I don't want to say anymore.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you from my heart, and thank you from all of the viewers that watch this, because again, people go through more failures than they do successes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people are scared to share the failures, and not that something like this is a failure, but it's a downside. It's a chapter that'll always have an earmark on it, no matter what you do. But you guys sharing your story, you don't know who it's going to help. You don't know who's going to hear it, that, they look you guys up and you give them encouragement and things like that. Laura, the last question I have is the one that I ask everybody at the end. We've not drug out your safe word yet, so this one could do it. I don't know. At the end of the day, when Laura and John are 85 years old, sitting on the swing, drinking sweet tea, watching the grandkids, what does Laura's legacy look like?
Ooh, that's a good question. And I'm picturing myself right now swinging. Maybe it's sweet tea. Maybe it's wine.
Maybe wine.
Just kidding.
It's wine.
My legacy, our legacy is and I'm not going to cry, and you're not going to do that to me, Linda, is, having 3 girls myself, and them knowing and feeling like they can accomplish whatever it is that they want to accomplish, that there is nothing holding them back, that they have the confidence. I want my kids to be so confident in who God made them to be, that they can do anything, that they are a light, that they are impactful, and that they're doing something, they're operating in alignment with the call on their life. That to me is success and legacy. Be great to have tons of properties. It'd be great to have a huge, insurance legacy, which I'm sure we will have too, but my kids are my first and foremost. It's just them operating out of who they are, and they're in alignment with their life, whatever that looks like, they'll know it. Is my legacy, and that they all know Jesus. That's literally it. All this stuff here is gravy, and just knowing that there's been some type of ripple effect of impact. I look at the leaders that I have, on our team, and I've attracted a lot of single moms too. You attract that what you are. And to me, watching them go from, where they started, and it's not that I've done the work, they've done it. They've had it inside them the entire time. I have nothing to do with that. I'm just one small piece in their ear to say, you can do that. And if someone remembers at some point in time that Laura said, you can do that, that to me is who knows what they can do with their life if they have just a small ear of someone saying, you can do that. And that's legacy to me. So
I love it. I mean, and the most successful people you meet, it's never money. It really isn't. It's always, those closest to you. And I think that means a lot. It means a whole lot. Yola, you have any final questions?
No questions, but I mean, I always go back to the saying I saw the other day that says, don't be well known, be worth knowing. Because there's a lot of us that are on stage and everybody thinks that they know us, but are you really worth being known? Like when they actually peel back all the onion layers and they actually talk to you as a human being, are you worth what you're, those closest to you? Is that, because that's what's important to all of us, right? Who our immediate circle is, who our family is, and what they think about us, because that's our legacy in each other. So those are my final thoughts, is like, just be worth knowing.
Yeah, love it. Laura, you've been a blessing. I know that your words are going to impact how many people we don't know, but they'll impact. Before we wrap up, if you've watched this video and you like Laura's spirit and you want to know a little bit more about how to hook up on the outside as far as insurance goes, Laura, give your information of how folks are able to contact you, reach out to you, and we'll wrap it up.
Yep. So I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Laura Sisco. So at Laura Sisco, SISCO. We've got our website, which is www.thepowerhouseteamnasb.com. Or on Facebook, just find me on Laura Sisco. I'm public, so it should be easy to find. And yeah.
And if you guys aren't a member of Women Insurance Producers Unfiltered, please go sign up. You can also find her in our group as well. And it would be fine if they just direct message you, correct?
Correct. That's fine.
Perfect. Well, until next time, y'all go have a great day, and WIPU Nation all the way.
Thank you so much. Ciao.